Stranded Chapter 1: The Secret Departure. In the opulent estate of House Selim, a hush had settled over the grand halls. The flicker of candles cast long shadows on the walls adorned with portraits of ancestors, their stern visages a silent witness to the clandestine preparations. Prince Zacharry Selim, tall and fair-haired, paced nervously in his private chambers. His usual attire of silks and brocades was replaced by more practical clothing, a stark contrast to his surroundings. He glanced at the packed bags and then at Commander Raven Blackwood, who stood by the door, his expression as unreadable as ever. "Raven Blackwood, do you think this is truly necessary?" Zephyr asked, his voice betraying a rare moment of uncertainty. Raven Blackwood, a burly man with a shaved head and eyes like steel, nodded. "It is, my lord. The situation in the capital is deteriorating. Your safety is paramount." Zephyr sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Very well, let's proceed." A knock on the door interrupted their conversation. Captain Amara Hawke, resplendent in her crisp uniform, entered the room. Her presence exuded authority and confidence. "Your Highness, the ship is ready for departure," she announced, her voice firm yet respectful. Zephyr straightened, adopting a regal demeanor. "Thank you, Captain. We shall leave immediately." The trio made their way through the labyrinthine corridors of the estate, each step echoing in the silence. Servants and guards bowed as they passed, unaware of the true nature of their departure. Outside, the escort-class spaceship awaited, its S-gracing form a stark contrast to the ancient architecture of the estate. Zephyr cast a final glance at his home as they boarded the ship. The weight of his decision settled heavily on his shoulders, but he steeled himself for the journey ahead. Lieutenant Orion Reyes was running final checks in the control room, his hands flying over the controls with practiced ease. "Ready for takeoff, Captain," Orion reported, not looking up from his console. Captain Hawke nodded, taking her place in the command chair. "Initiate launch sequence." The engines roared to life, and the ship lifted off, leaving the estate and its secrets behind. As they ascended through the atmosphere, Zephyr stared out of the viewport, watching the planet recede beneath them. "First time leaving home, Your Highness?" A voice broke his reverie. It was Jasper Finn, the ship's engineer, his face smudged with grease but his eyes twinkling with curiosity. Zephyr managed a tight smile. "Yes, it is. Quite different from what I expected," Jasper chuckled. "Well, stick with us, and you'll see plenty more. This ship has seen its share of adventures." Their conversation was cut short by the sudden appearance of Dr. Lyra Solaris, who bustled into the room carrying a stack of data pads. She barely acknowledged Zephyr as she set about her work. "Doctor!" Zephyr greeted politely. Lyra glanced up briefly. "Your Highness," she replied curtly before returning to her data. Zephyr exchanged a bemused look with Jasper, who shrugged. "She's always like that, all business." As the ship continued its journey, the crew settled into their routines. Zephyr found himself gravitating towards the control room, where Captain Hawke and Lieutenant Reyes monitored their course. "How long until we reach our destination?" Zephyr inquired, trying to mask his impatience. "Approximately 12 hours, Your Highness," Captain Hawke replied, without looking away from the controls. "Feel free to rest. We'll alert you upon arrival." Zephyr nodded, but rest was the last thing on his mind. He wandered through the ship, his thoughts whirling with uncertainty and anticipation. During one such aimless stroll, he encountered Silas Grayson, meticulously cleaning an array of old-style guns laid out on a table. "An impressive collection," Zephyr remarked, genuinely intrigued. Silas looked up, a gleam of pride in his eyes. "Thank you, Your Highness. Each piece has a story." Zephyr picked up a particularly ornate pistol, admiring the craftsmanship. "I imagine they've seen a lot of action," Silas nodded. "Indeed, and they might see more before this journey is over." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden jolt that shook the ship. Alarms blared, and Zephyr felt a surge of panic. "Everyone, to your stations!" Captain Hawke's voice rang out over the intercom. "Prepare for an emergency landing." Chaos erupted as the crew scrambled to their posts. Zephyr hurried to the control room, his heart pounding. Through the viewport, he saw the planet rushing up to meet them. "Hold on," Orion shouted, wrestling with the controls. "This is going to be rough." The ship shuddered violently as it breached the atmosphere. Zephyr clung to his seat, the roar of the engines and the blaring alarms filling his ears. In those frantic moments, he only hoped they would survive the crash landing. With a final, bone-jarring impact, the ship slammed into the surface. Silence followed, broken only by the groans of stressed metal and the crew's labored breathing. Zephyr opened his eyes, disoriented but alive. "Is everyone okay?" Captain Hawk called out, her voice steady despite the situation. A chorus of affirmations answered her, though some were laced with pain. Zephyr looked around, seeing the determination on the faces of those around him. They had survived the crash, but their ordeal was only beginning. As the dust settled and they began to assess the damage, Zephyr knew this journey would test them all in ways they could never have imagined. And somewhere, hidden among them, was a saboteur whose plans had only begun to unfold. Assessing the damage, the control room was a flurry of activity. Jasper Finn was already at the main console, running diagnostics on the ship's systems. "Engines are offline, several hull breaches, and we've lost primary power," he reported. Still clutching her datapads, Dr. Lara Solaris was helping an injured crew member. "We need to set up a medical station," she said, calm and authoritative. Captain Hawk nodded. "Raven Blackwood, take a team and secure the perimeter. We need to know what's out there." Commander Raven Blackwood, ever efficient, gathered a few able-bodied crew members, including Silas Grayson and Ensign Nova Sinclair. "Let's move," he ordered, and they filed out of the ship with weapons at the ready. Zephyr watched them go, feeling a mix of admiration and frustration. He was used to being in control, but he felt helpless in this alien environment. "What can I do to help?" he asked Captain Hawk. She looked at him appraisingly. "You can help set up the medical station with Dr. Solaris. We need all hands on deck." Zephyr nodded and followed Dr. Solaris to a section of the ship that had sustained the least damage. They worked together, setting up cots and organizing supplies. Despite her initial brusqueness, Zephyr found Lyra to be efficient and knowledgeable. "Have you ever done this before?" she asked, her tone softer now. "Not exactly," Zephyr admitted, "but I can learn." She smiled faintly. "Good. We're all learning out here." Exploring the unknown, Raven Blackwood's team moved cautiously outside the ship, scanning the surroundings for any signs of danger. The planet was unlike anything they had seen before, with strange flora and a sky tinged with hues of green and purple. "Stay alert," Raven Blackwood warned. "We don't know what's out here." Silas Grayson, carrying one of his prized old-style rifles, nodded. "Roger that. This place gives me the creeps." Ensign Sinclair, despite her youthful enthusiasm, was focused and professional. "I've got movement over here," she called out, pointing to a cluster of rocks. Raven Blackwood approached carefully, his weapon at the ready. He signaled for Silas to cover him as he inspected the area. After a tense moment, he relaxed. "Just some local wildlife. Nothing we can't handle." They continued their sweep, finding nothing immediately threatening. Raven Blackwood decided it was safe enough to report back. "Perimeter secure," he told Captain Hawk. "We should be able to set up camp." Back at the ship, the crew began unloading supplies and setting up a temporary camp around it. The atmosphere was tense, but they were determined. They were survivors and would do whatever it took to get off this planet. Discovering sabotage. As the day wore on, Jasper Finn continued his work on the ship's systems. "Something's not right here," he muttered, frowning at the data on his screen. Orion Reyes, who had been assisting him, looked over. "What do you mean? These failures, they're not jaw discoverist from the crash. Some of this damage looks deliberate." Orion's eyes widened. "You mean sabotage?" Jasper nodded grimly. "Exactly. Someone on this ship wanted us to go down." Captain Hawk was informed immediately. She gathered the key crew members in the control room. "We have reason to believe the crash was not an accident," she began. "There may be a saboteur among us." The revelation sent a ripple of shock through the group. Zephyr felt a cold chill. Who would do such a thing? "We don't know yet," Hawk replied, "but we need to be vigilant. Trust no one completely until we find out who's responsible." First night on the planet. As night fell, the alien sky was filled with unfamiliar constellations. The crew settled into a wary routine. Guards were posted, and makeshift lamps illuminated the camp. Zephyr sat by a small fire with Captain Hawk and Commander Raven Blackwood. The flickering flames cast shadows on their faces, making the situation feel even more surreal. "How are you holding up, Your Highness?" Hawk asked, her tone softer now. Zephyr shrugged. "This is all new to me. I'm used to having everything done for me." Raven Blackwood, ever the protector, interjected. "You're adapting well, my lord, better than most would in your position." Zephyr appreciated the sentiment, but knew he had a long way to go. "Thank you, Raven Blackwood, but I need to do more. I want to be useful." Hawk nodded approvingly. "We can use every hand. Jasper Aro will need to explore the area more. There's a lot we don't know about this planet." Zephyr agreed. He was determined to prove himself, not just to the crew, but to himself. As he lay down to Grayson that night, his mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead. Morning discoveries. The following day, the camp was abuzz with activity. Dr. Solaris was already cataloging samples of the local flora, fascinated by the potential medicinal properties. Jasper Finn and Orion Reyes deeply discussed the ship's repairs. Zephyr joined them, eager to contribute. "What can I do?" Jasper handed him a tool. "Help me with this panel. We need to reroute some power to get the comms online." As Zephyr worked alongside Jasper, he felt a sense of purpose. This was far from his previous life of luxury, but it felt right. He was learning, adapting, and becoming a part of the crew. The saboteurs' next move. Unbeknownst to them, Cyrus Wraith was watching their every move. He had blended in seamlessly, pretending to be just another survivor, but his mind was always scheming. Morning discoveries. The following day, the camp was abuzz with activity. Dr. Solaris was already cataloging samples of the local flora, fascinated by the potential medicinal properties. Jasper Finn and Orion Reyes deeply discussed the ship's repairs. Zephyr joined them, eager to contribute. "What can I do?" Jasper handed him a tool. "Help me with this panel. We need to reroute some power to get the comms online." As Zephyr worked alongside Jasper, he felt a sense of purpose. This was far from his previous life of luxury, but it felt right. He was learning, adapting, and becoming a part of the crew. His next move. That evening, as the crew gathered to discuss their plans, Cyrus made his move. He approached Zephyr, and his demeanor was friendly and unassuming. "Your Highness," he said with a slight bow. "May I have a word?" Zephyr, still wary but curious, nodded. "Of course." Cyrus led him away from the others, speaking in a low voice. "I couldn't help but notice you're quite resourceful. I believe we could work well together." Zephyr was intrigued but cautious. "What do you have in mind?" Cyrus smiled, his eyes glinting with hidden intent. "I have some knowledge of this planet. I believe ancient ruins not far from here could hold valuable resources. It might be our ticket off this rock if we could find them." Zephyr's interest was piqued. "Why didn't you mention this before?" "I wanted to be sure you were someone I could trust," Cyrus replied smoothly. "Now that I see your commitment, I believe we can succeed together." Zephyr felt a flicker of hope. If Cyrus was right, this could change everything. "Very well, we'll explore these ruins together." As they rejoined the group, Zephyr couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Cyrus than met the eye. But for now, he was willing to take the risk. The survival of the crew depended on it. Chapter 2. Survival and Secrets. The morning after the crash, the camp was a hive of activity as the crew assessed their surroundings and began the arduous task of making their temporary home on the alien planet. The sunlight, tinged with hues of green and purple, filtered through the canopy of unfamiliar flora, casting an ethereal glow over the makeshift camp. Prince Zephyr Calum awoke to the sounds of urgent voices and equipment hum. He stretched, feeling the aches from the previous day's crash and the unfamiliar sensation of sleeping on a cot. As he stepped out of his tent, he was immediately approached by Commander Raven Blackwood. "Morning, Your Highness," Raven said with a slight nod. "We need all hands on deck today. Captain Hawk has assigned tasks to everyone. Zephyr nodded, appreciating Raven's straightforwardness. What can I do to help? Raven handed him a data pad. Captain Hawk wants you to assist Dr. Solaris in cataloging the local flora. She believes there might be plants with medicinal properties that could be useful. Zephyr accepted the data pad and went to the area where Dr. Lyra Solaris was already at work. She was crouched over a cluster of plants, her face a mask of concentration. Good morning, Doctor, Zephyr greeted, trying to sound as confident as possible. Dr. Solaris glanced up briefly. Morning, Your Highness. Grab a sample kit and start with those plants over there. Make sure to log each one carefully. Zephyr did as instructed, his initial awkwardness giving way to a sense of purpose as he immersed himself in the task. The alien plants were unlike anything he had ever seen, with vibrant colors and strange textures. He marveled at their beauty even as he meticulously recorded their details. As the morning wore on, Zephyr found himself increasingly at ease. He worked in silence beside Dr. Solaris, occasionally exchanging notes and observations. Being part of a team and contributing meaningfully was a new experience for him. Meanwhile, Captain Amara Hawk oversaw the construction of a more permanent shelter. She moved among the crew with an air of authority, her presence both reassuring and motivating. Keep those supports steady, she instructed a group of crew members erecting a framework. We need this structure to withstand the elements. Lieutenant Orion Reyes worked on the ship's communication systems with Jasper Finn. They had set up a makeshift workstation near the crash site, surrounded by various salvaged equipment. We need to get these comms online, Orion said, his tone urgent. If we can establish contact with any nearby ships or colonies, we might be able to get out of here sooner. Jasper nodded, his hands deftly working on a control panel. I'm on it. This system is pretty banged up, but I think I can jury-rig something. Ensign Nova Sinclair organized the supplies and made an inventory of their food, water, and medical resources. Despite her young age, she handled the task with a seriousness that impressed the more seasoned crew members. How are we looking, Ensign? Captain Hawk asked as she approached. We have enough rations for about a week, Nova reported. But we'll need to find a sustainable source of food and water soon. Captain Hawk nodded. Good work. Keep me updated on any changes. Silas Grayson, the weapons collector, was inspecting his collection of old-style guns. He had set up a small armory near the edge of the camp, where he meticulously cleaned and maintained each weapon. These might come in handy if we run into any trouble, Silas remarked to no one in particular. He glanced up and saw Zephyr approaching. Your Highness, Silas greeted with a nod. Care to join me for a bit of target practice? Zephyr hesitated for a moment before nodding. Sure, why not? Silas handed him a pistol and pointed to a makeshift target. Just aim and squeeze the trigger gently. Zephyr aimed and fired, the recoil surprising him. The shot went wide, missing the target entirely. Silas chuckled. Not bad for a first try. Keep practicing, and you'll get the hang of it. As Zephyr continued to practice, he felt a growing sense of camaraderie with the crew. Despite the dire circumstances, there was a shared determination to survive and find a way off the planet. The first signs of sabotage. Later that afternoon, as the crew gathered for a brief rest, Jasper Finn approached Captain Hawk with a concerned expression. Captain, I've been going over the ship's systems, and something doesn't add up, Jasper said. What do you mean? Hawk asked, frowning. Jasper glanced around, ensuring they were not overheard. Some of the damage to the ship, it looks deliberate. I'm starting to think we were sabotaged. A murmur of unease rippled through the crew. Captain Hawk's expression hardened. Are you sure? Jasper nodded. Positive. Someone tampered with the systems before we crashed. Captain Hawk took a deep breath, considering the implications. We need to keep this quiet for now. The last thing we need is panic. Keep investigating and report back to me. Jasper agreed and returned to his work, his mind racing with suspicions. Meanwhile, Captain Hawk gathered the key members of the crew for a discreet meeting. We have reason to believe the crash was not an accident, Hawk began, her voice low and steady. "There may be a saboteur among us." The revelation sent a ripple of shock through the group. Prince Zephyr felt a cold chill. Who would do such a thing? "We don't know yet," Hawk replied, "but we need to be vigilant. Trust no one completely until we find out who's responsible." Exploration and discovery. The next morning, Cyrus, Zephyr, and a small team set out to explore the ruins. Commander Raven Blackwood insisted on accompanying them, ever vigilant in his duty to protect Zephyr. Lieutenant Orion Reyes and Dr. Lyra Solaris also joined the expedition, eager to uncover the planet's secrets. As they trekked through the dense foliage, the sense of adventure mingled with a palpable tension. "Keep your eyes open," Raven advised, scanning the surroundings. "We don't know what we might encounter." After several hours of hiking, they reached the entrance to the ruins. Ancient stone structures, covered in moss and vines, loomed before them. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the whispers of history. Dr. Solaris's eyes lit up with excitement. These ruins are incredible. Who knows what knowledge they might hold? Cyrus, ever the opportunist, stepped forward. "Let's split up and cover more ground. We need to find anything useful for our survival." Raven narrowed his eyes but didn't protest. The group divided into pairs, each taking a different path through the ruins. Zephyr and Dr. Solaris explored a section filled with intricate carvings and strange symbols. "This place is remarkable," Zephyr remarked, tracing a finger along a faded mural. Dr. Solaris nodded. "It's like nothing I've ever seen. If we could decipher these symbols, we might learn more about the people who built this place." Meanwhile, Cyrus and Orion ventured deeper into the ruins, where they discovered what appeared to be an ancient control room. "Look at this," Cyrus said, pointing to a series of levers and buttons. Orion examined the controls, his mind racing with possibilities. "If we can figure out how to power this up, it might help us repair the ship." As they worked, a sense of unease settled over the group. Unbeknownst to them, Cyrus was carefully observing and planning his next move, the saboteur's next step. That evening, back at the camp, tensions were high. The crew gathered to share their findings and discuss their next steps. Captain Hawk listened intently as each team reported their discoveries. "We found what looks like a control room," Orion said. "If we can get it operational, it might provide us with the necessary resources." Dr. Solaris shared her excitement about the carvings and symbols. "There's so much we could learn here. This place is a treasure trove of knowledge." Cyrus, ever the manipulator, added his perspective. "These ruins could be our salvation. We must continue exploring and unlock their secrets." Captain Hawk nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "We'll focus our efforts on getting that control room operational, but we must remain cautious. There's still a saboteur among us." As the meeting adjourned, Zephyr felt a growing sense of unease. He couldn't shake the feeling that Cyrus was hiding something. But for now, they needed his knowledge and skills. That night, as the crew settled in for some much-needed rest, Cyrus made his move. Under the cover of darkness, he sabotaged a critical piece of equipment, ensuring their progress would be hampered. Morning revelations. The following day, the crew awoke to find that one of their vital systems had failed. Jasper Finn was the first to discover the sabotage. "Captain, we've got a problem," Jasper reported, his voice tinged with frustration. "Someone tampered with the power supply. It'll take days to fix this." Captain Hawk's expression hardened. "This is getting out of hand. We must find out who's responsible and stop them before they do more damage." The revelation sent a wave of tension through the camp. Accusations and suspicions flew as the crew tried to determine the saboteur's identity. Cyrus watched from the sidelines, a satisfied smile playing on his lips. Prince Zephyr felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. "We need to find the saboteur and bring them to justice. Our survival depends on it." The plan unfolds. Captain Hawk devised a plan to uncover the saboteur as the day wore on. "We'll set a trap," she announced to the crew's key members. "We'll plant false information and see who acts on it." The crew agreed, their resolve strengthened by the need to protect their fragile community. They carefully crafted a plan, spreading word of a vital equipment that needed to be moved to a secure location. That night, as the camp settled into an uneasy sleep, Cyrus moved. He crept through the shadows, intent on sabotaging the equipment. But he was not alone. Commander Raven Blackwood and Lieutenant Orion Reyes were waiting, hidden in the darkness. As Cyrus approached the equipment, Raven stepped forward, his weapon drawn. "It's over, Wraith. We've got you." Cyrus's eyes narrowed, his cunning mind racing for an escape. "You're making a mistake, Commander. I'm not the saboteur." Orion stepped forward, his voice cold and steady. "Save it. We've seen enough." Cyrus knew he was cornered, but wasn't going down without a fight. With a sudden, fluid motion, he drew a concealed weapon and fired, narrowly missing Raven. The camp erupted into chaos as the crew scrambled to apprehend Cyrus. In the end, Prince Zephyr delivered the final blow, disarming Cyrus and bringing him to the ground. Justice and resolution. As dawn broke, the crew gathered to decide Cyrus's fate. Captain Hawk's expression was grim. "You endangered all our lives, Wraith. You'll be confined until we figure out what to do with you." Cyrus glared defiantly, but he knew he was defeated. The crew's unity had triumphed over his betrayal. The crew redoubled their efforts to repair the ship and secure their survival in the following days. Prince Zephyr grew closer to his comrades, his respect for them deepening with each passing day. Commander Raven Blackwood, ever vigilant, continued to protect Zephyr, but with a newfound appreciation for the strength and resilience of the crew. Captain Amara Hawk's leadership was solidified, and her ability to navigate the challenges of their situation earned her the unwavering loyalty of her team. As they worked together, the crew discovered new strengths within themselves and each other. They were no longer just survivors, but a family, united by their shared struggle and determination to escape the planet. And as they looked to the horizon, the ancient ruins whispering secrets of a forgotten past, they knew their journey was far from over. But with each other's support, they were ready to face challenges. Chapter 3. The Ruins. The morning sun cast long shadows over the alien landscape as the crew prepared for another day of exploration and repairs. Despite the tension from discovering the saboteur, the crew was united in their goal to survive and find a way off the planet. Prince Zephyr Keelam felt a newfound purpose as he joined the others. Today, they returned to the ancient ruins they had discovered, hoping to unlock their secrets and find resources to aid their escape. Commander Raven Blackwood was already organizing the teams. "We'll split into two groups. Captain Hawk, you take the first team and work on getting the control room operational. I'll lead the second team to explore the deeper parts of the ruins." Captain Amara Hawk nodded, her gaze steely. "Let's get to it. The sooner we get that control room up and running, the better our chances." As the teams gathered their equipment, Zephyr approached Raven. "I'll go with you. I want to see more of the ruins." Raven nodded. "Very well, Your Highness. Stay close and be ready for anything." Zephyr joined Raven, Lieutenant Orion Reyes, Dr. Lyra Solaris, and Silas Grayson. They set off towards the ruins, their spirits high despite the underlying tension. Exploring the depths. The ruins loomed before them, a testament to a long-forgotten ancient civilization. Massive stone structures, covered in moss and vines, stood as silent sentinels. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the whispers of history. "Stay alert," Raven warned, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "We don't know what we might encounter in there." As they ventured deeper into the ruins, Solaris examined the intricate carvings and symbols on the walls. These markings are fascinating. They seem to depict some kind of ritual or ceremony. Zephyr traced his fingers along the faded murals, feeling a connection to the past. It's incredible to think about the people who built this place. What happened to them? Orion Reyes, ever practical, focused on their immediate goals. "Let's find that control room and see if we can get it operational. We need to keep our priorities straight." With his old-style rifle, Silas Grayson kept a wary eye on their surroundings. "I've got your back, Reyes. Just say the word." They reached the ancient control room they had discovered the previous day. The room had levers, buttons, and strange devices that seemed archaic and advanced. "Let's see what we can do," Orion said, rolling his sleeves. "Dr. Solaris, any ideas on how this might work?" Lyra Solaris studied the controls, her mind racing with possibilities. "It's hard to say without more information. We might need to try a few things and see what happens." As they worked, Zephyr felt excitement and trepidation. The ruins held secrets that could be their salvation, but they also carried the weight of the unknown. Unexpected discoveries. Meanwhile, Captain Hawk's team was progressing on another part of the ruins. Jasper Finn meticulously examined the machinery to understand its purpose. "This equipment is incredible," Jasper muttered to himself. "If we can get it working, it could make a huge difference." Ensign Nova Sinclair, ever eager to prove herself, assisted him with the repairs. "What do you need me to do, Jasper?" "Hand me that toolkit," Jasper replied, focused on the task at hand. "We need to reroute some power to these terminals." As they worked, a sudden noise echoed through the ruins. The team froze, their senses heightened. "Did you hear that?" Nova whispered, her eyes wide. Jasper nodded, his hand moving to his sidearm. "Stay close. Let's check it out." They cautiously moved toward the source of the noise, their hearts pounding. As they rounded a corner, they found themselves face to face with a group of strange, humanoid figures. The creatures, covered in scales and with glowing eyes, regarded them with curiosity. For a tense moment, neither side moved. Captain Hawk stepped forward, her hand raised in a gesture of peace. "We mean you no harm," she said slowly. "We are travelers who have crashed on this planet. We seek to repair our ship and return home." The creatures exchanged glances, their eyes narrowing. One of them, seemingly the leader, stepped forward and spoke in a guttural language that was incomprehensible to the humans. "We don't understand," Hawk said, frustration creeping into her voice. "Do any of you have translation devices?" Jasper fumbled with his equipment, pulling out a device. "I have something that might help. Give me a moment." As he worked to activate the translator, the tension in the air was palpable. Finally, the device began emitting beeps and whirs before setting a clear tone. "Greetings, travelers," the creature's leader said, the translation device rendering their words into understandable speech. "I am Kor, leader of this settlement. Why have you come to our sacred grounds?" Captain Hawk breathed a sigh of relief. "We did not mean to trespass. We are in need of assistance. Our ship has crashed, and we seek to repair it so we may leave this place." Kor regarded them with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. "We will take you to our elders. They will decide if you are worthy of our help." Meeting the elders. The team followed Kor and the other creatures through the ruins, their minds racing with questions. They were led to a large chamber where a group of elders, their scales adorned with intricate patterns, sat in a circle. The elders studied the humans intently. One of them spoke first, an ancient being with deep, wise eyes. "I am Eldra, the eldest of our kind. You seek our help, but we must know more about you." Captain Hawk stepped forward, her voice steady. "We are explorers from another world. Our ship was sabotaged, and we crashed here. We seek only to repair our vessel and leave your planet." Eldra nodded slowly. "Your arrival was foretold in our legends. The Sky People would come in their time of need, and we would decide their fate." Zephyr, unable to contain his curiosity, stepped forward. "What do your legends say about us?" Eldra's gaze turned to him, her eyes piercing. "The legends speak of a great trial, a test of character and spirit. Only those who prove themselves worthy will receive our aid." The trial. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. "What kind of trial?" Zephyr asked, his voice tinged with apprehension. Eldra gestured to a series of stone tablets adorned with symbols. "The trial is one of courage, wisdom, and unity. You must navigate the challenges within these ruins, facing the spirits of our ancestors and proving your worth." Raven Blackwood stepped forward, his expression resolute. "We accept your trial. We have no other choice." The elders nodded in unison. "Very well. The trial will begin at dawn. Prepare yourselves, for the path ahead is fraught with danger." Preparing for the trial. As night fell, the crew gathered around their campfire, their minds weighed down by the coming trial. They spoke in hushed tones, sharing their fears and hopes. Zephyr sat beside Raven, his thoughts racing. "Do you think we can do this?" Raven placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We have no choice but to succeed. Remember, Your Highness, we are stronger together." Orion Reyes, ever the pragmatist, focused on their strategy. "We need to work as a team. Each of us has unique skills crucial to overcoming the challenges." Dr. Solaris nodded. "I agree. We must use our knowledge and strengths to support one another. This trial is not just about individual prowess, but unity." Silas Grayson, cleaning his rifle, spoke up. "And if we encounter any threats, we'll be ready to defend ourselves." Nova Sinclair's eyes filled with determination added, "We've come this far. We can't turn back now. We'll face this trial together." As the night wore on, the crew found solace in their unity. Despite their differences and their challenges, they were a family, bound by their shared struggle and determination to survive. The trial begins at dawn. The crew stood before the entrance to the trial chamber, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Eldra and the other elders watched them with solemn expressions. "The trial will test your courage, wisdom, and unity," Eldra reminded them. "Prove yourselves worthy, and you will receive our aid." With a final nod, the crew entered the chamber, their resolve unshaken. The air inside was cool and damp, and the walls were adorned with glowing symbols that seemed to pulse with their own life. The first challenge awaited them, a series of intricate puzzles that required mental acuity and teamwork. As they worked together, each crew member contributed unique skills and knowledge. Dr. Solaris's understanding of the ancient symbols guided their way, while Orion Reyes's quick thinking and problem-solving abilities helped them navigate the complex mechanisms. Zephyr's leadership and Raven's unwavering support kept the team focused and determined. After what felt like hours, they successfully completed the first challenge, and the path ahead opened up to reveal the next trial, a labyrinth filled with illusions and traps designed to test their courage. As they ventured deeper into the labyrinth, the crew faced their fears head-on. Silas Grayson's keen senses and marksmanship protected them from hidden dangers, while Nova Sinclair's agility and resourcefulness helped them navigate the treacherous paths. Despite the challenges, the crew's unity and determination never wavered. They supported one another through every obstacle, proving their strength as a team. The final confrontation. As they neared the end of the trial, they encountered the spirits of the ancient civilization, who appeared as ethereal beings shrouded in light. The spirits spoke in unison, their voices echoing through the chamber. "You have faced our trials with courage, wisdom, and unity, but one final challenge is a test of your character and resolve." The spirits conjured an illusion of Cyrus Wraith, who stood before them with a smug expression. "Do you see this man?" the spirits asked. "He represents the darkness that seeks to divide and destroy. How will you confront him?" Zephyr stepped forward, his voice steady and unwavering. "We will confront him with the strength of our unity. We will not let his treachery define us." The crew stood together, their resolve unbroken. As they faced the illusion of Cyrus, their collective strength dispelled the darkness, and the spirits nodded in approval. "You have proven yourselves worthy," the spirits declared. "You shall receive our aid." A new beginning. As the crew exited the trial chamber, they were met with the elders' approving smiles. Eldra stepped forward, her eyes filled with pride. "You have passed the trial. We will help you repair your ship and provide the necessary resources to leave this planet." The crew breathed a sigh of relief, their hearts filled with gratitude. They had faced the trials and emerged stronger, their unity and determination unshaken. In the following days, the elders provided the crew with the knowledge and resources needed to repair their ship. With their help, the crew worked tirelessly, their spirits lifted by the promise of a new beginning. Chapter 4. Betrayal and Resilience. The crew of the stranded ship worked tirelessly to repair the damage and restore power, their spirits buoyed by their recent triumph over the trials on the alien planet. Prince Zephyr Selim, now a respected crew member, worked alongside his comrades, his once soft hands now calloused from the labor. As they toiled, a sense of unease began to grow among them. Small inconsistencies and unexplained malfunctions hinted at a deeper problem that threatened to unravel the fragile trust they had built. Jasper Finn, the ship's engineer, was the first to voice his concerns. "Captain Hawk, I've been reviewing the system logs, and something doesn't add up. It's like someone's been tampering with the ship's systems from the inside." Captain Amara Hawk frowned, her brow furrowed with worry. "Are you certain, Jasper? Who would do such a thing?" "We already have the saboteur in the brig." "I don't know, Captain, but I intend to find out," Jasper replied, with determination evident in his eyes. As Jasper delved deeper into the ship's systems, he uncovered a trail of sabotage that led him to a shocking discovery. One of the guards lay down at the engineering level, eyes wide open and blood pulsing from his chest. Jasper turned him around and checked his vital signs. The man was dead. He was bleeding from a wound in his chest. The shot had probably killed him instantly. Jasper looked around nervously. He could hardly hide the shock. He used a hanky that he found there to absorb the blood, tried to wipe it clean, tears and despair filling his eyes. When he had wiped away the blood, he took a look at the chest wound. It was a small wound. Jasper raised his eyebrows. This must have been a very high-velocity shot, like an armor-piercing round or something, to get that deep with such a small impact wound. Jasper looked at his own gun and his stunner and shook his head. This was not caused by standard-issue weapons, that was clear. Jasper silently moved to the corridor and from there closer to the armory. He entered the armory and saw his crewmate Silas standing there cleaning his gun as he was used to doing. Silas was startled, though, by the silent entrance of the room. Out of the corner of his eye, Jasper could see that the cloth he was using to clean the gun had blood on it. Silas had always been an enigmatic figure, his past shrouded in mystery. He had proven himself a valuable crew member, and his weapons skills and tactical knowledge were invaluable in their fight for survival. But now, the truth of his allegiance was laid bare. "A traitor among us," Jasper confronted Silas in the armory, his voice trembling with anger and disbelief. "How could you, Silas? We trusted you. You were one of us." Silas looked up from the rifle he was cleaning, his expression cold and unreadable. "Trust is a luxury we can't afford out here, Jasper. I've always been loyal to the highest bidder, and right now that's Cyrus Wraith." Jasper's eyes widened in shock. "Cyrus Wraith? The saboteur? You're working with him?" Silas smiled, a cruel twist of his lips. "Wraith and I go way back. He's the one who sent me on this mission to infiltrate your crew and make sure you never leave this planet." Jasper reached for his weapon, but Silas was faster. In a blur of motion, he disarmed Jasper and had him in a chokehold, his gun pressed against Jasper's temple. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," Silas growled. "I've got orders to keep you alive, but accidents happen." Just then, the door to the armory burst open, and Commander Raven Blackwood stormed in, his eyes blazing with fury. "Let him go, Silas. It's over." Silas laughed, a harsh and bitter sound. "Over? It's only just begun, Commander. You have no idea what's coming." Raven advanced, his weapon trained on Silas. "We trusted you, fought beside you. How could you betray us like this?" Silas shrugged, his grip on Jasper never wavering. "Betrayal is just another word for survival out here, Raven. You, of all people, should understand that." Raven's face hardened, his finger tightening on the trigger. "Last chance, Silas. Let Jasper go and surrender peacefully." For a moment, it seemed as if Silas would comply. But then, with a sudden movement, he shoved Jasper towards Raven and fired his weapon, the shot going wide as Raven ducked for cover. Chaos erupted as the two men fought, trading blows and gunfire in the close quarters of the armory. The commotion drew the attention of the rest of the crew, who rushed to investigate. Prince Zephyr and Dr. Lyra Solaris were the first to arrive, their faces etched with shock and disbelief as they entered the scene before them. "Silas, what have you done?" Zephyr cried, his voice cracking with emotion. Silas paused, his gun still trained on Raven. "What I had to do, Your Highness. What I was paid to do." Lyra stepped forward, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. Silas, please, it's not too late. We can still work this out. Silas shook his head, a bitter smile on his face. There's no going back now, Doc. I've made my choice. With that, he lunged for the door, firing off a volley of shots to cover his escape. The crew ducked for cover, but not before one of the shots found its mark, grazing Zephyr's arm and sending him tumbling. Raven and Jasper gave chase, but Silas was too quick, disappearing into the ship's bowels with a parting shot over his shoulder. The crew regrouped in the medbay, tending to their wounds and trying to understand what had just happened. Zephyr sat on the edge of a cot, his arm bandaged and his face pale with shock. I can't believe it, he muttered, his voice hollow. Silas, of all people, how could we have been so blind? Captain Hawk placed a comforting hand on his shoulder, her face grim with determination. We couldn't have known, Zephyr. Silas fooled us all, but now we know the truth, and we won't let him get away with this. Jasper, his face bruised and his eyes haunted, spoke up from the corner of the room. It's not just Silas we have to worry about. He mentioned Cyrus Wraith, the saboteur who caused our crash in the first place. If they're working together, who knows what else they have planned? Lyra nodded, her brow furrowed with worry. We need to fortify our defenses and closely monitor our systems. We can't afford any more surprises. Raven paced the room, his face dark with anger. And we need to find Silas and bring him to justice. He can't be allowed to get away with this. Zephyr stood, his face determined despite the pain in his arm. Agreed. We'll hunt him down and make him pay for his betrayal. But first, we need to make sure the ship is secure and the crew is safe. The others nodded, their resolve hardening in the face of this new threat. They had faced challenges before and emerged stronger for it. This would be no different. The aftermath of betrayal. As they set about their tasks, each crew member grappled with the weight of Silas's betrayal in their way. Zephyr, who had come to see Silas as a friend and mentor, felt the sting of his betrayal most keenly. He threw himself into his work, determined to prove his trust had not been misplaced. Raven, ever the protector, redoubled his efforts to keep the crew safe, his eyes constantly scanning for any sign of danger. He blamed himself for not seeing the signs of Silas's deception earlier and vowed never to let his guard down again. Lyra, always the voice of reason, worked to keep the crew's spirits up and their focus on the task at hand. She knew they couldn't afford to let their emotions cloud their judgment, not when the stakes were so high. Jasper, his confidence shaken by his close call with Silas, found solace in his work. He pored over the ship's systems with a newfound determination to root out any further sabotage. And Captain Hawk, the leader who had brought them this far, shouldered the burden of her crew's safety and well-being, her resolve unwavering in the face of this new challenge. Together, they worked to repair the damage Silas had done to the ship and to their trust in one another. Raven and Jasper moved through the dimly lit corridors, their weapons drawn and senses heightened. The ship's faint hum was their only companion as they advanced, each step carefully placed to avoid making noise. Behind them, Captain Hawk followed closely, an energy blaster in one hand and a scanning device in the other. The device emitted a soft beep, guiding them deeper into the ship's belly. They exchanged silent glances, communicating through nods and gestures honed by countless missions together. The scanner's readings grew stronger, leading them closer to their quarry. They reached a junction where the corridors split into multiple directions. Captain Hawk adjusted the scanner and pointed left. Raven nodded and took point, his eyes scanning every shadow for movement. Jasper covered their rear, ensuring no one could ambush them from behind. The scanner's beeps quickened as they approached a sealed door. Captain Hawk motioned for them to halt. She pressed a button on the device, and it displayed the room's layout beyond the door. Silas was inside, moving around restlessly. Raven signaled Jasper to flank the door while he prepared to breach it from the front. Captain Hawk readied her blaster, her face a mask of determination. Raven counted down with his fingers, 3, 2, 1, and then kicked the door open. Chaos erupted as they burst into the room. Silas reacted instantly, diving behind a console and firing his weapon. Raven returned fire, his shots precise and controlled. Jasper flanked from the side, his stunner sending arcs of energy across the room. Silas was quick, but Raven was quicker. He moved with lethal grace, dodging Silas's shots and closing the distance between them. Silas tried to retreat further into the room, but Jasper cut off his escape route with a well-placed stun blast. Captain Hawk fired her blaster with deadly accuracy, forcing Silas into a corner. The traitor's eyes darted around desperately as he realized he was outmatched. With nowhere left to run, he made one last attempt to fight back. Raven saw his opening and didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, disarming Silas with a swift strike and pinning him to the ground. Silas struggled fiercely, but Raven's grip was unyielding. "Got him," Raven called out as he secured Silas's hands behind his back. Captain Hawk approached cautiously, her weapon still trained on Silas. "Good work," she said quietly. Jasper holstered his stunner and joined them. "Let's get him secured," he suggested. The fierce fight ended as quickly as it had begun, leaving them all breathless but victorious. Chapter 5. Uncovering the Key. In the aftermath of Silas Grayson's betrayal, the crew of the stranded ship found themselves grappling with a new sense of purpose. They had uncovered the ancient ruins on the alien planet, and now, with the revelation of Cyrus Wraith's true intentions, they knew that the key to their escape and Wraith's ultimate defeat lay hidden within those crumbling walls. Prince Zephyr Calum, his arm still bandaged from the confrontation with Silas, stood before the crew, his voice steady with determination. "We know now that Wraith planned to keep us stranded here, to use us as pawns in his twisted game. But we also know that he fears the power within those ruins. That's why he sent Silas to sabotage our efforts." Commander Raven Blackwood nodded, his face grim. "Silas mentioned an ancient energy source that could power the ship and allow us to escape. We need to find it before Wraith's reinforcements arrive." Lyra Solaris stepped forward, her eyes alight with curiosity. "The ruins are filled with puzzles and traps designed to protect this energy source. It won't be easy to navigate, but I believe I can decipher the clues left behind by the ancient civilization." Jasper Finn volunteered to accompany Lyra, but his injuries from the confrontation with Silas were still fresh. "I've been studying the ship's systems, and I think I can rig up a way to interface with the ancient technology. If we can unlock its secrets, we might stand a chance." Zephyr turned to Captain Amara Hawk, who had been listening intently. "Captain, I'd like to lead the expedition into the ruins with your permission. We need to move quickly before Wraith realizes what we're up to." Hawk nodded, her expression one of grim determination. "Permission granted. But be careful, all of you. We've already lost too much to this planet. I don't want to lose any more." The Ancient Trials. The expedition set out at dawn, Zephyr and Lyra leading the way, with Raven and Jasper following close behind. They navigated through the winding corridors of the ruins, their path illuminated by the eerie glow of ancient technology. As they delved deeper, they encountered a series of trials, each more challenging than the last. They solved intricate puzzles, dodged deadly traps, and faced down ancient guardians in their quest to uncover the energy source. With each trial, they grew more determined and more united in their purpose. Zephyr's bravery and quick thinking saved them more than once, while Lyra's keen intellect and Jasper's technical skills proved invaluable in overcoming the obstacles in their path. But it was Raven who ultimately led them to the heart of the ruins, his instincts honed by years of combat experience. He sensed the presence of the energy source long before they saw it, a pulsing, luminous orb that seemed to beckon them forward. The Eternal Engine. As they approached the orb, Lyra's eyes widened with wonder. "It's incredible," she breathed. "The amount of power contained within this device. It's unlike anything I've ever seen." Jasper stepped forward, his hands trembling slightly as he examined the control panel. "I think I can interface with it, but it will take time. We need to buy ourselves some breathing room." Zephyr and Raven exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. We'll hold off Wraith's forces, Zephyr said. Do what you need to do. They took up defensive positions around the chamber, their weapons ready. And when Wraith soldiers finally broke through, they were met with a wall of fierce resistance. Zephyr and Raven fought side by side, their movements perfectly synchronized as they cut down their enemies. They had come so far, sacrificed so much, and were not about to let Wraith snatch victory from their grasp. As the battle raged on, Jasper worked feverishly to unlock the secrets of the ancient technology. Lyra assisted him, her knowledge of the ruins proving crucial in deciphering the final pieces of the puzzle. And then, with a triumphant shout, Jasper connected the final wire. The orb pulsed with energy, and the entire chamber began to shake. "I think we did it," Jasper exclaimed, his voice barely audible over the rising hum of the machine. "The Eternal Engine is activating." Zephyr and Raven fell back, their weapons still smoking from the battle. They watched in awe as the energy from the orb began to flow outward, suffusing the ruins with a radiant glow. Escape and reckoning. The crew raced back to the ship, the energy from the Eternal Engine pulsing through its once dormant systems. The corridors were alive with activity as everyone scrambled to prepare for their escape. Engineers worked feverishly to integrate the alien technology while the rest of the crew secured supplies and manned their stations. The air was thick with fear and exhilaration, the knowledge that they were on the cusp of something meaningful. On the bridge, Captain Amara Hawk took her place in the command chair, her eyes scanning the readouts before her. "Status report," she barked, her voice cutting through the controlled chaos. "All systems are green, Captain," Jasper Finn reported from his station. "The Eternal Engine is fully integrated. We have more power than we know what to do with." "Weapons are online and ready," Commander Raven Blackwood added, his fingers hovering over the controls. "If Wraith's forces try to stop us, we'll give them a fight they won't forget." Hawk nodded, a grim smile tugging at her lips. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Prince Zephyr, are you ready?" Zephyr Calum stood beside her, his gaze fixed on the view screen. The once unfamiliar control room now felt like a second home where he truly belonged. "Ready as I'll ever be, Captain," he replied, his voice steady with determination. With a final nod, Hawk gave the order. "Initiate launch sequence." The ship shuddered as its engines roared to life, the power of the Eternal Engine surging through every conduit and relay. The view screen showed the planet's surface falling away beneath them, the ruins where they had made their last stand growing smaller with every passing second. Zephyr released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding as they broke through the atmosphere. They had done it. They had escaped the planet that had held them captive for so long, and had overcome the betrayal of one of their own and the machinations of a ruthless enemy. But even as relief washed over him, Zephyr knew their journey was far from over. Wraith's forces were still out there, scattered and reeling from their defeat, but by no means defeated. And Wraith himself remained at large, his sinister plans still a looming threat. Zephyr turned to face the crew, his eyes blazing with a newfound sense of purpose. "We may have escaped the planet, but our mission is far from over," he declared, his voice ringing across the bridge. "Cyrus Wraith is still out there, and as long as he remains free, none of us are truly safe." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But we are stronger now than we have ever been. We have faced the darkness within our ranks and emerged victorious. We have unlocked the secrets of an ancient civilization and harnessed its power for our survival, and we will not rest until Wraith and his minions are brought to justice." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crew, their faces set with determination. They had come too far, had sacrificed too much to let Wraith slip through their grasp now. As the ship hurtled through the stars, Zephyr felt a sense of calm settle over him. The key to their future lay ahead, and they would claim it together, as a crew, as a family. They would unravel the mystery of Wraith's plans would bring him to account for his crimes, and nothing, not even the betrayal of one of their own, would stand in their way. In the days and weeks that followed, They followed every lead and chased down every whisper of Wraith's whereabouts. They formed alliances with those who had been wronged by him and battled those who sought to protect him. Through it all, they remained united, their bond forged in the fires of adversity. Chapter 6: A Fearless Future. The ship sailed through the vast expanse of space, the crew's spirits soaring as high as the stars themselves. They had done the impossible and had emerged from the crucible of betrayal and adversity stronger and more united than ever before. The once stranded survivors were now a force to be reckoned with, their legend growing every day. On the bridge, Prince Zephyr Keelam stood tall, his eyes fixed on the infinite possibilities that stretched before them. The weight of leadership sat comfortably on his shoulders now, tempered by the trials he had faced and the wisdom he had gained. At his side stood Commander Raven Blackwood, his loyal protector and friend. The once stoic warrior now allowed himself a rare smile, secure in the knowledge that he had helped to forge something greater than himself. Lyra Solaris and Jasper Finn worked tirelessly in the ship's labs, their brilliant minds now turned towards unlocking the secrets of the universe. The technology of the Eternal Engine had opened up new avenues of research, and they were determined to explore them all. The rest of the crew went about their duties with a newfound sense of purpose, each knowing they were part of something special. They had stared into the face of darkness and emerged unbroken, their bonds of friendship and loyalty stronger than any force in the galaxy. Zephyr couldn't help but reflect on how far they had come as they charted a course through the stars. The naive prince who had set out on this journey was gone, replaced by a leader forged in the fires of adversity. He had learned the true meaning of courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable strength of standing together. The new mission. But even as they savored their hard-won peace, a new challenge loomed. Reports had begun to filter in of a growing threat, a shadowy organization known only as the Dread Syndicate. Whispers spoke of worlds subjugated, of populations enslaved, of a darkness spreading unchecked across the galaxy. Zephyr knew they could not stand idly by when so many were suffering. He called the crew together, his voice ringing out with the conviction of a true leader. "We have fought hard for our freedom," he declared, "but we cannot forget that others are still trapped in darkness. The Dread Syndicate threatens the very fabric of our society, and we cannot let their evil go unchallenged." He paused, his eyes meeting each of his crewmates in turn. "I will not order you to follow me. Each of you has already given so much. But I ask you, as your friend and leader, to stand with me again. Together, we can be a light in the darkness, a beacon of hope for all those who have lost their way." One by one, the crew stepped forward, their faces set with determination. They had not come this far to turn back now, not when there was still so much good they could do in the universe. And so, with a new purpose burning in their hearts, the crew of the once stranded ship set out to confront the Dread Syndicate. They followed every lead, every whisper of the organization's whereabouts, determined to unravel the web of secrecy and bring the perpetrators to justice. They forged alliances with like-minded individuals and groups, working tirelessly to build a coalition of the willing. Governments pledged their support, recognizing the crew's unwavering bravery and tireless dedication to the cause of freedom. Through it all, Zephyr and his crew remained the tip of the spear, the vanguard in the fight against tyranny. They infiltrated hidden bases, liberated enslaved populations, and faced down the Syndicate's most fearsome agents, never once faltering in their resolve. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. The Dread Syndicate's power base crumbled, and its leaders were brought to justice individually. Worlds once shrouded in fear celebrated their newfound freedom, the name of Zephyr Keelam and his fearless crew on every tongue. The legend grows. As the crew's legend grew, so did the challenges they faced. The remnants of the Dread Syndicate, desperate and cornered, lashed out with increasing ferocity. The battles grew more intense, the stakes higher with each passing day. But through it all, the crew's bond remained unbreakable. They had been forged in the fires of adversity, their loyalty and commitment to each other stronger than any weapon their enemies could bring to bear. Even in the darkest of times, they found moments of light. Laughter echoed through the ship's corridors, the easy camaraderie of a family bound by something deeper than blood. They celebrated each victory, mourned each loss, and always stood together. And when the final battle came, when the last of the Dread Syndicate's leaders made their stand, the crew was ready. They fought with the courage of lions, the cunning of foxes, and the determination of those who knew that they were on the side of the right. In the end, victory was theirs. The Dread Syndicate was no more. Its reign of terror finally ended. And as the dust settled, as the grateful citizens of a dozen worlds cheered their saviors, Zephyr and his crew stood tall, their eyes filled with the light of a fearless future. A new dawn. In the weeks and months that followed, the crew of the once stranded ship became more than just heroes. They became symbols of hope, of the unquenchable spirit of those who refused to bow to tyranny. They were invited to speak at grand halls and government chambers, their words inspiring a new generation of leaders. They were hailed as the saviors of the galaxy, their names etched into the annals of history. But the greatest reward for Zephyr and his crew was the knowledge that they had made a difference. They had taken the darkest of circumstances and forged from them a brighter future, not just for themselves, but for all those who followed in their footsteps. As they stood on the bridge of their ship, gazing out at the infinite expanse of the universe, they knew that their journey was far from over. There would always be new challenges to face, new wrongs to right, and new adventures to be had, but they would face them as they always had, together, a crew, a family, a beacon of hope in a galaxy that so often seemed consumed by darkness. Zephyr smiled, his hand resting on the shoulder of his dearest friend and most trusted confidant, Raven. "We've come a long way," he said softly. Raven nodded, his eyes shining with the same fierce pride Zephyr felt in his heart. "And we have so much further to go. The future awaits." The once stranded crew, now the stuff of legend, continued their mission to bring hope and justice to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. They explored strange new worlds, forged new alliances, and faced down threats that would have once seemed impossible. Through it all, they remained true to the ideals that had brought them together: courage in the face of adversity, loyalty to one another, and an unshakable commitment to doing what was right, no matter the cost. They grew, both as individuals and as a team. Zephyr became the leader he was always meant to be, and his wisdom and compassion guided them through even the darkest times. Raven found a peace he had never known, secure in the knowledge that he had found his true family. Lyra and Jasper pushed the boundaries of science and technology, their innovations changing the face of the galaxy. The others, each in their way, left their mark on the universe, their deeds inspiring countless others to follow in their footsteps. And always, always, they stood together. Through triumphs, tragedies, laughter, and tears, they remained the beating heart of a movement that would change the galaxy forever. Years turned to decades, and still the legend grew. Children across the stars grew up on tales of Prince Zephyr and his fearless crew, dreaming of the day they might join their ranks. Governments rose and fell, but the ideals they fought for endured, a shining beacon in an often uncertain universe. When the time came for the crew to take their final bow and pass the torch to a new generation of heroes, they did so with the knowledge that their legacy would endure. The galaxy they left behind was a brighter place, a testament to the power of courage, friendship, and hope. For that was the true gift of their journey, the real treasure they had found among the stars. Not fame, glory, or riches beyond measure, but something far more precious: the knowledge that in the end, it is the bonds we forge and the lives we touch that truly matter. As Zephyr and his crew stood on the precipice of a new chapter, their hearts were filled not with trepidation, but with a sense of profound gratitude. They had been given a rare and precious gift, the chance to make a real difference in the universe. and as they looked to the future and the countless adventures that still lay ahead, they knew they would face them as they always had. Together, a family, a force for good that would never ever waver. The stars beckoned, a million worlds waiting to be explored, and with hearts full of hope and eyes fixed on the horizon, the crew of the once-stranded ship sailed fearlessly into the future, ready for whatever lay ahead. They were the galaxy's heroes, the stuff of legend and song. And their story, the story of a prince and his crew,